Okay. In March 2023, President Cyril Ramaphosa appointed Minister Maropini Ramakgopa to serve as the Minister in the Presidency for Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation under the 6th administration. She later served as the Acting Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture in 2024. She was reappointed to serve as Minister in the Presidency for Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation under the 7th administration, governed by the Government of National Unity. She's a seasoned politician with extensive experience in diplomacy, governance, and administration. She was born on the 31st of December 1979 in Polokwane, in Limpopo, and grew up in Leboakgomo Township, just outside of Polokwane. She's a mother of 3 and the second daughter in a family of 4 daughters. She holds several qualifications in commercial administration, business management, and municipal finance, and is currently completing a master's in public administration. She's a South African policymaker and diplomat with 10 years of experience in economic diplomacy and multilateral diplomacy, and served in various diplomatic advisory roles. She served as the manager of stakeholders in the Office of the Minister of International Relations and Cooperation from 2014 to 2016. She was the Consul General in Mumbai between 2016 to 2019 and served as the Treasurer Consular in Mumbai for 2 consecutive terms. She became Chief Advisor to the African Union Chairperson of the Republic of South Africa in 2020 to 2021, and the Special Advisor in International Relations to His Excellency President Cyril Ramaphosa. She has extensive experience in public governance and policy development in local government, having served as World Councillor in the Kgatelopele municipality in 2005 to 2006, as the Executive Mayor of Siyanda District Municipality from 2006 to 2009, and the Office Manager in the Northern Cape Premier's Office Status of Women between 2009 and 2013. She served on several boards, Kalahari Kuvit in Uppington in the Northern Cape, the Northern Cape Tourism Board, National Youth Development Agency for 3 years, where she contributed immensely to the development of youth, focusing on young women. She also served on as the regional convener to the Progressive Women's Movement in South Africa.
The Commissioner, the CEO, members of the Commission present, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. In Kenya, we greet twice. Good afternoon again. Greetings from the Republic of Kenya. I would like to start by thanking the Commission for this opportunity to be here. The High Commission is excited to be here. And let me take this opportunity to say that this is only a representation of how serious Kenya is on issues of gender equality. Let me thank the panelists. It's been a very engaging session, and the participants for that vibrant and peaceful environment that you've created since yesterday. I would like to start by celebrating the women of South Africa. I can tell you, you are in the history books, you can be sure. From apartheid to this moment, congratulations, you've done a great job. In terms of fighting for this country, in terms of development, in every way, we know you. Since I was a small child, Winnie Mandela and others, we know them. Not only in Africa, but in the world. I can only ask that the current generation upskill that. Don't fail those heroes. As I sat in the session yesterday and today, the reason I asked to be here today is because I have seen so much similarity in us between Kenya and South Africa in terms of development in gender equality. And you will allow me to just say something because I stand here as a small sister. Not as a small sister, yes, in terms of Kenya-South Africa development. And in that, mention that Kenya and South Africa enjoy very cordial relations. We are good friends. And to secondly say that you have a beautiful country. I've been here for the last 2 years. I have another year or so to go. I have visited South Africa. I have 2 provinces to go, and that is because you have, I don't know whether you know, but you have a beautiful country. Well developed, your roads are fantastic. Driving across is like, you know, and I don't want to compare in that way. I don't want to say more. I might be caught in some excitement. So I wanted to say that in terms of comparison, we have a lot of similarities and a lot of challenges that we share. And I just want to mention 3 things. 1, partnerships. 2, in terms of education and training. 3, property ownership. And property ownership, I'm just, trying to dilute it because there is a lot we can say about it. And you'll allow me at this stage to keep my diplomatic status there so that we can speak as ladies. Please don't judge me. I always hear my daughter telling me, Mama, why are you judging me? Please don't judge me. I just want to be a little sincere. Partnerships. South Africa and South African, and I don't want to call you women, I want to call you ladies. You're doing too much to invent the wheel. You're just trying so hard to invent the wheel. I have been listening to hear partnerships and nobody mentioned that. When you talk about partnerships in this hall, you talked about it in terms of others within. What about us? The reason we could talk about partnerships is because Kenya is older in terms of independence. While you're hitting 30 hard years, we are hitting 60. So in terms of where we came from, Beijing and on, we have gone through a lot. I had questions back there thinking, they're still in that, they're still doing that. That is because in many ways, we can learn from each other. And you can learn more from us in terms of how far we've gone and what we have done. And I listed a few things. Implementation of gender policies. I can tell you we are far. The role of governance and the role of other MDAs, other organizations like civil societies. I hear a fear of a non-governmental organization and the civil society in this sitting. We manage them, we don't fear them. And let me tell you the truth. In terms of sensitization, awareness, oversight, issues like sex education in school and in community, they are doing great in Kenya. They are doing a fantastic job. I wish you could embrace them, control them, and let them do it the way you want. They are very important. I also want to talk about the role of government. Government has a very huge role in the development of gender in our countries, not just in policy, but in terms of implementation of the so many policies that we have. I know I can give a few examples of the collaboration between the security forces from the police in terms of the security of the woman and the girl child in Kenya. We are far off, we are very far. GBV, we are actually protected by our police. We have a Nyumba Kumi initiative. Nyumba Kumi in Kiswahili means 10 houses. Communities are divided into sectors that look after each other, so that your daughter is my daughter. And if I see anything, it is within that community person who takes care of that community. There are small things like that that make huge differences in our communities. And here the focus is to take care of what in Kiswahili we call, and we were shown by President Moi, our second president. He called that person down there, mwananchi wa kawaida, the ordinary person. It's not a very nice way of saying it, but that person is protected. And why is that person protected? Because that is where the majority of the population is. That is where the majority of the population is. Keeping the girl child in school, whether they are pregnant, it doesn't matter. See what happens to that child, and that girl goes to school, because that girl child is the future. There's this thing about that when you've educated a girl child, then you've educated society. Stick to it. It is so important. Female genital mutilation is a huge thing in Kenya. Early marriage. I don't know what you think about a girl who is 18, under 18, and in a marriage. I will stop it at that, because if I continue. Other things, of course, are women participation in all sectors of society, and we include disability, disabled. Here is very important. We have a system in government where we have the 2/3 majority. 2/3 majority, even in procurement. What government procures out there, women and the disabled are taken as a special unit. They have their percentage in procurement. Nobody takes it from you. Protection of the family and the marriage institution. We need, and we need it in South Africa in a bad way. I've learned so much in this country. You need to learn from others. Yes. How are they doing it? Yes. Please pick it. Pick it, like yesterday, because you need it. We need to rescue the girl child. I have just heard from the last session, that last panel, that 70% of homesteads in this country are headed by women. 70%. That is something. That is really something that you need to take care of. Let me also say that on the issue of education and training, if you come to Kenya, the setup is different, and it's because of where we come from, and therefore we need to learn. We need to actually really learn what is happening. The education sector, the training sector. We have systems in Kenya where training is easy, and this is the technical training that has not really picked up in the 30 years in this country. We train tailors, we train mechanics, they're in every corner. If I need a mechanic, I already know one. Here, it will take me 3-4 days to have my toilet fixed. And we are still talking about unemployment. Technical skills. Where are the tailors? Where are the mechanics? Where are all those? That is where the majority of the population is in informal sector. I have also heard, the second thing that I heard strongly is that there is a fear here that if we have a very large informal sector, we may not be able to control, we may not be able to get, I don't know how to say about it in technical language, but the taxes from them, or we need to retrieve from them so that they can be beneficial to the tax and many other ways. It is a major sector in terms of contribution to the unemployment. We have so many youth lying there. What are we going to do? This is also tied to the welfare the society in South Africa. You have to help them because they are not earning. They are idle, they are sleeping. What do? They go to crime. It reports to the crime rate in this country. Informal sector. Train your youth, get them to do things for themselves and others, and they will get out there and be useful. Because the population in South Africa that is down there is quite a lot. They need to serve each other. To serve, I mean to give each other services. My last point, without taking so long, is property ownership. I know it is complicated in this country, but my input on property ownership is to encourage the women of South Africa that liberation is not over, and I know this is sensitive, until you can have the greatest resource that you require. It may not sound nice. Some people might be wondering, how can she say that? And she's a diplomat. Let me tell you, ladies, in terms of learning from each other, you're welcome to Kenya. The majority of our population are in agriculture. And what we do in agriculture, value addition, feeding the population. There are so many things that can come up out of agriculture. And for you to preserve a better life for your children and your great-grandchildren and the future generation, please, that is the greatest resource you have. No one may want to tell you this openly, that I'm talking to you women. No one else. You have seen that men take the best jobs, men do this, men do this. Majority of them are sleeping one way or another. Wake up. Wake up and get the resource that you require to change the lives, not just of your girls, but your boys as well. It is important. In conclusion, I know that I haven't done justice to a comparative study of the two, but let me say that let me talk directly to the Commission, to the chairperson of the Commission and the CEO. Kenya has a lot to offer, and we welcome you to the High Commission to come and have a conversation about what we can gain from Kenya in terms of how far we are in gender equality, and let us benchmark on how far we have gone in our 60 years. Last word, Allow me to state one thing, and I urge to be excused. I urge each one of us to encourage our society, our children, to get free from the welfare mentality. It is a colonial mentality. It's a special liberation. It's another liberation. It is very significant to be self-reliant. Self-reliant. Put money in your pocket at the end of the month that doesn't belong to government, that belongs to yourself, your hard work. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Kenya. And East Africa in particular. It's only just 4 hours away. And there are several flights in a day. I have had instances of South African women coming to Kenya and not returning. You're welcome. Let us share the challenges and the gains together. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Another round of applause. I think we should also applaud the moderators from the previous sessions. I think they did very well in holding space, my colleagues. Okay, and so we continue with the program. We remain, as it is said on the program that was shared this morning. We will move on now to the declaration. I think a common phrase that has been reiterated since yesterday is that we are tired of talking. And I agree, we are tired of talking. Talking alone is insufficient. However, I do think it is important to talk, but it must be coupled with action. I like the analogy that was used by Dr. Mzi yesterday about a pattern. She mentioned that there was a pattern that had been developed before our time. I mean, I'm only 4 years older than democracy. And there's one we've crafted ourselves. And you said it's important to reflect on that pattern. And I think moments such as this one create that opportunity for us to see if we like this pattern. And if we don't, we change it. And you also importantly said that future generations must determine for themselves whether they want to take from us or create their own pattern. So we've deliberated, there's been reflections and resolutions, and these have culminated into a conference declaration. So at this point, we are recommitting ourselves. We could be creating a new pattern. Dr. Matotoka, I'm now handing over to you to take us through the conference declaration as we commit ourselves to gender equality and gender transformation going forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Program Director. Good afternoon once more. I will read the draft that was crafted during the course of the deliberations. But as we know that even in the last session, we did not capture all the deliberations, so we're still going to consolidate because there's a lot of issues that have been raised that warrants us to take a different direction in terms of how we're going to tackle these issues. And we are coming out of this conference being committed to support and strengthen efforts towards the creation of a comprehensive policies programs that address the root cause of gender-based violence and femicide. And in doing so, we call on the government to institutionalize NSP. It must not be an option that is exercised by different departments. It's something that must be done. And in doing so, we must, as the CGE and also with institutions, hold duty bearers accountable for failing to institutionalize the NSP, because the NSP is the blueprint of challenges that arise as a result of gender-based violence and femicide, but also providing solutions in terms of how we are going to address those. So we need to hold the department accountable so that the institutions can really be held accountable. So we therefore cannot expect a situation where a department's APP is passed and accepted without specific aspirations coming out of the NSP. It must be something that we deal with going forward. We strive for a greater inclusivity in language for gender diverse persons, and in so doing, the PENSALP must assist us in terms of the proper languages that must be used in terms of reference to different diverse persons. And we're happy because we're already having a gender terminology project with them that helps us to have a deeper understanding. But of course, it cannot stop now. It must be a continuous process so that we do not unintentionally discriminate unfairly against persons. Of course, we understand that there is a need to ensure that gender equality is legislated. And against this backdrop, it is important that the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disability expedite the wage bill. We are aware that the wage bill, as presented recently even in Parliament, it was said that it is going through relevant structures and it will be open for comments by the public. We therefore urge everyone in this room, their constituencies and the people that they work for, to ensure that once that bill is open for comments, we provide valuable inputs, because the achievement of gender equality also requires, coming out of this conference, that it must be legislated and it must be done urgently. We also recognize the underrepresentation of vulnerable groups when it comes to political representation. And therefore we urge that there must be that quota that deals with lack of representation of women in different political parties. It must not be a nice to have. We've come to a point where that must be the case going forward across all political parties in the country. When it comes to access to health care, Treasury needs to come to the party. Gone are the days where we are told that we do not have budget to provide basic health care services. When it comes to termination of pregnancy services, women in remote rural areas do not have access to those. So the Treasury must come to the party and ensure that there is adequate funding to the Department of Health. But in the same breath, departments must be held accountable for those that are returning monies back to Treasury for failing to provide a basic service. Similarly, we must hold the Department of Health accountable for the violence that we've seen as far as forced sterilization is concerned. And we call on the Department of Health to expedite the finalization of those cases urgently. Because we appreciate that as long as those matters are not finalized, those that were subjected to this do not enjoy substantive equality. We have discussed in this conference the plight that comes with informal traders. We therefore recognize that it is important that we follow up with the Department of Justice in as far as the South African Law Reform Commission's Project 143. This is long overdue. We must ensure that the safety of informal traders, women's participation in the mainstream of the economy is realized through that project paper. And therefore, we must lobby Parliament to adopt a legislation that recognizes this vacuum in law. And as such, the CGE must spearhead that discussion with the Department of Justice together with the Law Reform Commission. I know my team is looking at me and say, hey, what is this one saying? With sexual harassment as one of the issues that are burning in institutions of higher learning as well as the workplace. We recognize that the non-uniformity of policies by institutions of higher learning is one of the reasons why matters are not properly handled by institutions of higher learning. There is a ministerial report that has been submitted to the minister in terms of how this must be handled. Because sexual harassment impedes on the right to dignity of many persons in university communities, we urge the Minister of Higher Education to expedite that report and adopt those recommendations. And those recommendations are actually supported by one of the research studies that we have done as an institution. The CGE must work closely with the BBEE Commission to really deal with the lack of ownership and participation of women in the economy. There is a gap that exists within the legislative prescripts of the BBEE. It's unfortunate they're not here. Oh, they are here. Oh, yes. Sorry. They are here. We must expedite discussions around how we are going to deal with fronting practices, tokenism, over and above that. Those that are hell-bent on ensuring that transformation is not materializing, the CGE must be able to hold them accountable accordingly. If we are going to talk about inclusivity, it means all persons, irrespective of their gender, must have specific data so that healthcare services can be recognized. As such, we need to ensure that the SA starts to have data around the queer persons so that treatment, whenever is needed, is made available. So that is something that the Stats SA must start to adopt, and then we engage also with the Department of Health in that regard. Okay. Yes. They say I must not overcommit myself. On a lighter note, as I've said, everyone, these are the draft recommendations coming out of this. We will properly conceptualize, but there are those low-hanging fruits that we see we can immediately start and work on as an institution with your support, of course. But there comes a point where, as everyone said, now it's about accountability. We have had a lot of things that have been said. We need to hold people accountable. Against that backdrop, Chairperson and colleagues, allow me to then welcome the Minister, who I'm advised that is ready to engage this audience. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for allowing us to come and give just a reflection and remarks on this great event and deliberations that we have listened to that have really made us to believe that at least we are on the right track and to expect more. I've just heard that you have just been told, Doctor, that you must not overcommit yourself. Maybe we should overcommit ourselves so that we can then now be able to ensure that our performance is a bit higher, precisely because we'll be knowing that we overcommitted ourselves. Where I am, unfortunately, the network is not so good, so I am actually being advised that it will work better if I switch off my camera, but I just wanted you to see my face before I do that. So having said that, let me take this opportunity, of course, to greet the program director, to also acknowledge the presence of the chairperson of the Commission for Gender Equality, Advocate Ntabiseng Sipanya Mogale. Also acknowledge the minister from Kenya. Also acknowledge the commissioners and all the other distinguished guests, members of the media, and everybody else who's a gender activist who is in this room. I'm pleased to join this important and timely gathering. The reflection on the strides South Africa has made in terms of gender equality is one of the most important undertakings we can make as we commemorate our 30 years of democracy and freedom. and continue to chart the path towards the South Africa we want. You know, one of the things that we have done that I didn't think that, or many haven't even thought of, was to come up with this model of bringing everyone together in South Africa, political parties, as much as possible, to work together in forming a government so that this government can then now be able to take us forward to the kind of South Africa that we want. So it just shows you that together we can do more and together we can actually do better. I'm excited to see these engagements, such as this conference hosted by the Commission of Gender Equality, continuing in the mainstream given the Commission's important constitutional mandate as entrenched through the Section 187 of our Constitution. This gathering brings together key stakeholders in government, private sector, and civil society. This is what we definitely need as South Africa and Africa, and humankind, of course, as we continue to call on all stakeholders in society to join efforts and to implement measures to achieve gender equality. Since the advent of democracy in South Africa, our government has been committed to the national and international instruments aimed at advancing the emancipation and empowerment of women. This include, but not limited to, our Constitution, the Convention on Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, and the Beijing Platform of Action. Over the past 3 decades, our government has adopted and implemented progressive policies focused on socio-economic transformation and to empower previously marginalized groups, including women. Much has been done to achieve gender equality in the country, but we should agree that, of course, a lot still needs to be done in this regard. We have an enabling legislative environment which has seen women making key strides in traditionally male-dominated sectors such as finance, energy, trade, transport, logistics, and mining. We also see women making strides in emerging economies such as the digital economy and artificial intelligence. Colleagues, despite these gains, many challenges still remains, as I've already alluded to. The challenge inhibiting women empowerment and gender equality in the country are well known to all of us and in the continent, the broader continent. The scourge of gender-based violence and femicide and lack of sufficient economic opportunities for women, access to education and employment continue to undermine our interventions and laid out plans to achieve women empowerment and gender equality. I'm encouraged that the speakers and panelists in this conference have echoed the message of collaboration in achieving our goals for gender equality. I also acknowledge the demand for government to implement measures to accelerate movement towards empowering women and bridging the inequality gap. We need collective action to ensure that we move in the same direction and to ensure that these matters holding us back towards achieving gender equality are actually addressed with agency. Colleagues, as the Department of Planning, Monitoring and Evaluation, our role is to ensure that policy coordination and implementation and institutionalization of planning in government is actually done. Our focus has been to ensure that all policies and plans of government are aligned to the National Development Plan and that they center on women empowerment. Just to share with you, whenever we do our assessment as it relates to the annual performance plans of different departments, we ensure that the Department of Women and people, youth and people living with disability actually form part of our group, so that as we do the assessment of checking if the APPs are actually aligned to the NDPs and the MTDP, but they are also reflecting on the mainstreaming of gender, as well as the mainstreaming of women empowerment in particular, and of course for the youth and people with disability. This focus gives us an opportunity to increase the impact of our interventions to empower women, to be more strategic in having evidence-based implementation of policies and plans, and to ensure alignment in all levels of government towards achieving developmental goals, which prioritizes women empowerment and gender equality. Ladies and gentlemen, you will recall that in response to the stubborn scourge of GBVF in our country, government in collaboration with civil society adopted the National Strategic Plan of the Gender-Based Violence and Femicide. There is a common understanding in our communities of the seriousness of the GBV scourge. The quarterly NSP report finds that most South African citizens believe gender-based violence is the most pressing issue related to women's rights. We need collective action to end the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide in our communities. And of course, this also include the entire African continent. And I think collaboration such as this one's and more will definitely be able to assist us to have a better voice that would allow us to ensure that we push gender equality and women emancipation programs, even on the platforms such as the AU. We are committed to ensure the implementation of the NSP on gender-based violence and femicide. The partnership between government, the private sector, and civil society, which saw the development of this plan, needs to continue to ensure that it is implemented. This year, the President of the Republic also signed the National Council of Gender-Based Violence and Femicide Bill, which will assist in providing strategic guidance in the fight to end GBVF. Our department will ensure more effective monitoring and evaluation of government response to end GBVF, and that women empowerment remains the center of government's actions to achieve the goals of the medium-term development plan and as well as our national development plan. To make our collective efforts to empower women more effectively in the country, we need to ensure that we mainstream gender issues at all levels of society, in all spheres of society, whether it be in business, media, and various level of government. We should not just talk about women issues only on Women's Month. And this should be continuous engagement throughout the year. And I'm so glad that it looks like we are continuing with what we are just calling on here, as this is not necessarily Women's Month, but we are talking about issues of women emancipation, which you definitely have to take 365 days as an effort that and a campaign that we put in place. We should also call out behaviors and actions that go against the efforts to empower women. We need a societal shift on how women leaders are seen in our society, whether it be in institutions, organizations, and other communities. For example, you do not call or promote women leaders in organizations only when your organization is facing a crisis. We have seen examples in our recent past where women have been put in leadership positions and have been made the face of organizations that are going through a scandal. What does it mean when organizations only recognize women leaders when they need to soften the blow to recover from scandals? Gender equality should not be a footnote in discussions or building the country's or of building the country's economy and inclusive society, but it should be a reality that we see every day. As I have echoed, all policies and plans in our country should be driven by the aim of ensuring gender equality and empowering women. What is inclusivity when gender equality does not feature prominently? We should be more deliberate in all our platforms and spaces of participation in society about prioritizing women empowerment to achieve gender equality. For our interventions to stand a chance, the work to achieve gender equality and to empower women should begin at home as we assign roles to our children and check our behaviors. Because we all know that, of course, issues of gender and gender roles are just a societal construct. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, South Africa has made important strides towards gender equality over the past 30 years of democracy. The government has established transformative legislative frameworks, and we have strong private sector and civil society that are playing a meaningful role in partnership in this regard. Together, we all share a common goal of a prosperous and inclusive South Africa, which can achieve its developmental goals if we stand together. Having said that, we need to do more collectively. We need to be more deliberate and precise in our collective effort to achieve gender equality in this country and in Africa, of course, because we know in Ubuntu, I am because you are. So therefore, South Africa cannot prosper alone. If the whole of Africa does not prosper, then it means that we haven't been able to move the needle as fast and as wherever we are supposed to actually take it. We need to deepen our intervention so that women can participate meaningfully and substantively in the economy through greater economic opportunities, safety, and access to healthcare, as well as education. I must just say that as I'm about to just close, I think now, even if it cut, at least I've spoken enough. The AFCTA, which we know that is will be the biggest trade area in the whole world, have actually called on different countries to actually set aside at least 30%. I think they said 30%, if I'm not wrong, I stand corrected, aside to say that this should at least be given to women. So as countries do report in terms of what they are doing and some other policies that they've put in place to be able to allow this free trade area to actually work better, because women in the main are the ones that are trading from one country to another, most especially when you talk about micro enterprises. So we really hope that we will then now come up with ways that we would encourage all our governments to actually do that and play our role wherever we are as well, to ensure that we do get this going. As the founding father of this democracy, South Africa, Tata Nelson Mandela once noted, and I quote, "Freedom cannot be achieved unless women have been emancipated from all forms of oppression." And I close quote. Having said that, thank you so much for allowing me to actually be part of this conversation and dialogue that we're having today, which is historic in its nature, because some of the things that we have discussed here today, I definitely know they are going to actually lay the foundation at which policy would be made, but activism will actually be strengthened. So thank you very much, Program Director, for this opportunity. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for those closing remarks, urging us to strengthen approaches and accountability measures. I walked slowly on purpose. I was observing Mr. Baloyi. He says, I don't know protocol. I thought he would stand up and say, no, chairperson must thank the minister. So I think I got it right this time around. As we edge closer to the end, I'm taking this opportunity now to call upon Ms. Mpelo Malibye to come and do the vote of thanks. I was saying to colleagues, I attended an event of a similar nature. Well, not the same because we're the only ones with the mandate that we have, but it was similar in a way that we were discussing the same issues. It was on gender equality, and I attended it in August, and it was a TV production. So I was saying to colleagues, I think you planned this to the same standard. It is as if this is a TV production. And I wonder if you'll thank yourself enough, having played a key role in the planning committee, Mpelo. But without wasting time, please come and do the roll-up. In TV, it's called the roll-up, when they acknowledge everyone who played a part in the production. Let's clap for her, please.
Good afternoon, colleagues. Thank you very much. I think I would start by thanking the chairperson of the Commission for Gender Equality. This was her brainchild, so thank you very much, Chair. Supported by the commissioners, thank you very much. Your contributions as moderators was really useful and wonderful to have you drive the conversation. To First Lady Megugu Mutlante, thank you very much for your presence. We really appreciate it. The video message of support from Me Phumzile Mlambo-Ngcuka, the presence of Ms. Josina Mashal yesterday. colleagues from the Department of Youth, from Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, as well as the Minister from the DPME. Thank you very much to the UN agencies and their representatives and other developmental agencies. Thank you very much to the embassy representatives and the Minister from the Kenyan High Commission. To our institutions supporting democracy, I've noted PanSalb has a stand outside. Thank you very much to them. All of our speakers, thank you very much to the legislatures that were in the room. We had KZN as well as Limpopo. To civil society, which brought really, really robust and engaging presence to the discussions. Thank you very much to the faith-based organizations and the traditional leaderships who were in the room. Members of the media, the sign language interpreters, the sound guys who persisted with us through our challenges, the two program directors, thank you very much, Naledi, Tebang. The hotel itself, the Radisson Blu, we've had numerous challenges and they've bared with us throughout this process. To our former commissioners, thank you very much. To the CGE team who assisted in making this what it is, particularly Liandi in Free State, Tepang, Limpopo, Zanele, and KZN Kuto in the Gauteng province, with the other supporting team, communications as well, thank you very much. To the Research and Policy Unit, thank you very much. All led by the CEO. I would like to thank our favorite person at the CGE, the CFO, who made this budget available for us and controlled it very strongly. Thank you very much. To the delegates more broadly, thank you very much, those who have attended personally and those who are online. The CGE wishes to extend our deepest gratitude and we wish to take this conversation forward. Thank you very much.
So it's as if I'm clairvoyant. I knew you wouldn't thank yourself. Thank you very much, Mpelo, for your leadership. It has been impactful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I won't waste any much of your time because I don't want to stand before you and your lunch. I know that flights have already been booked as well as shuttles. But from myself, just to thank you all for your audience. The room is still full and that says something, especially about our own commitment to the discourse itself and to the ambition that we have towards attaining gender equality, hopefully in our lifetime. I'm also grateful for your patience. I know that we moved things around from time to time. We didn't keep to time in some instances, but thank you very much. And for the grace that you have shown me. I'm seeing beautiful smiles. You've been encouraging. You've made this very easy for me to do. Thank you very much. I want to leave us with a quote. Someone said you're a researcher, you must say these things. So I want to leave us with a quote that says, "We cannot succeed when half of us are held back." Close quote, and that was said by Malala Yousafzai. And I think I would like to extend this a little bit by saying it's not just half of us. If we consider the full spectrum of gender diversities, it's more than half. So it's important that we carry this work forward. I wish you all the best, safe travels, and enjoy your lunch. Thank you very much.